Hello, I'm Andrew Wissick from the battleship U.S.S. North Carolina. On April 27th of 2018, I was lucky enough to meet former crew member Patrick Fonzi. Just 9 days ago, on August 1st, Mr. Fonzi turned 96 years old. Yesterday marked the end of the first 72 hours of the Battle of Guadalcanal. 77 years ago yesterday, the U.S.S. and Australian Allied forces had both lost ships in the battle. Here lies the bunk where Patrick Fonzi slept some nights. It would get up to 130 degrees in here. And 77 years ago, as the Battle of Guadalcanal was happening, the men of the NC were anxiously waiting for the next move. Because it was so hot, when the ship was in non-combat zones, the men were allowed to sleep on the deck and take their mattresses topside on the ship. Now let's go up and see.
You can't take a picture of it. I'm kind of cool.
Oh, topside.
Topside, folks. He wants to go up topside so we can send the drink. We want to get some drink. So, right here. Okay, do it right here.
Now, then do you want to come back?
Yeah.
So you guys are waiting here?
No, we're going to go.
You are? Okay. Because this is going to be cold as well. This one, I'm just going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, look. We're going around here.
We going? It's hard. In 14 days, the ship will celebrate the 77th anniversary of the first combat action seen in the ship. Due to the outstanding documentation of the ship's curator, Mary Ames Booker, and the generous contributions to the ship's historical records by the late U.S.S. North Carolina crew member Paul Weiser, I was able to get this picture. Both men are pictured here, Mr. Fonzi right here and Mr. Weiser right here. They served on Turret 7 on the 5-inch dual-purpose guns. They were called the dual-purpose guns because they were the only guns that fired by the ship in all combat. They were fired along with the 20 millimeters and the 40 millimeter machine guns on the ship. The 20 millimeter machine guns were used for anything that got within 2 miles of the ship, and the 40 millimeters would be used for anything 4 miles away. So they dealt with planes that would later use kamikaze tactics in the war. The 5-inch guns would also fire when the 16-inch guns were firing. Everyone needed to be below deck. If they weren't, they were lucky enough that their ears were only ringing for a few days. The power from the guns, combined with the pitch and roll of the ship, could send a sailor feet into the air and have them land and get a concussion. These 16-inch guns could fire a projectile roughly the size of a Volkswagen anywhere from 18 to 23 miles, which is a pretty substantial distance back then. The 5-inch dual-purpose guns were a more compact shot. They could fire from 8 to 13 miles. They could be used in both shore bombardments that included Iwo Jima, as well as anti-aircraft guns. 14 days from now will be the 77th anniversary of the North Carolina's first combat in the Pacific during World War II. That day, the 5-inch guns were firing as anti-aircraft guns along with the 20 millimeter and 40 millimeter guns in the Battle of the Solomon Islands. The North Carolina acted as cover fire protection in its carrier escort duties while airplanes from the carriers bombed the Solomon Islands. Tragically, that day, the North Carolina experienced its first combat casualty when sailor George Conlon got shot. Things could have been substantially worse, but the North Carolina fired her guns so much that the aircraft carrier U.S.S. Lexington radioed, "North Carolina, are you on fire?" They responded no. They were just firing tons of ammunition at everyone from men that were assigned combat roles, like Patrick Fonzi and Paul Weiser on Turret 7 on the 5-inch guns, the ship's marine attachment that took pride in helping to load ship guns, as well as in non-combat roles like cobblers, pharmacist mates, and cooks like African-American sailor Roosevelt Flanard, featured in his book, Someone Paved the Way. All these men did that because back then, all hands on deck meant all hands on deck. 77 years and 9 days after his 19th birthday, we wish Mr. Patrick Fonzi a happy 96th birthday and thank him for his service and for our freedom. This is Andrew Wissick from the battleship U.S.S. North Carolina, saying fair winds and following seas to all Navy and Marines past and present. Thank you for your service, and to all our veterans past and present. And remember the fallen like George Conlon. Andrew Wissick, battleship U.S.S. North Carolina.